Most people think that they quit the gym because they're lazy. But what if the real reason is that they never saw proof of it working? Today's guest built the tools to fix that, using nothing but your phone. And here's the crazy part. It's outperforming tools and technologies like InBody, BodPod, and even coming within 1% DEXA scans. If you're tired of guessing what's working, if you've ever had a client tell you that they don't feel the difference, this episode will change everything on the way that you coach, track, retain your clients. In today's episode, I sit down with Jason Moore, the founder of Spren, a revolutionary platform that's redefining the way that do body scanning, handle nutrition, and even behavior change by putting powerful biometric tools in the palm of your hand. He's the same mind behind Elite HRV, and what he's building bridges science and psychology in a way that actually gets people to stick with their health goals. We talk about why fitness models fail, how feedback loops keep people consistent, why DEXA and BIA can actually mislead your progress, and how Spren is solving all of that without bulky equipment, embarrassing appointments, or complicated tech. Whether you're a gym owner, a coach, or just trying to get better results for yourself, this one is packed with insights. Let's get into it. Jason, thanks for joining, man. Glad to have you.
Yeah, Michael, I'm happy to be here. It's exciting. I think we can get into a lot of fun stuff, and I'm excited to learn a little from you today too, because I have learned some listening to you already.
Oh, I appreciate that. Hopefully I've got something to be of value. So, before we get into it, I mean, you're here, you've done an app before, and it seems like your focus has always been kind of around biometrics and how your body really works and how you can use technology to get that information. So before we really start talking about Spren, your new app, I want to start with kind of the human side, right? I want to kind of get the background or the origin story. What moment or experience in the past kind of led you down this path? I mean, I have my own origin stories and the reasons why I kind of got into the field that I got into. I'm sure everybody has their own. Where did you kind of start this whole process of where you thought people needed to change their health or have the technology in order to kind of, what happened?
Yeah. I mean, basically it was a collision of a few experiences that I had in the past. One of which is I've always been a tech guy, so to speak. I configured and built my first computer when I was 6 years old with the help of my dad, who's also a tech guy. And
savant, early on.
Self-taught programming around age 10. And so I've just been really kind of tech in the weeds for a long time, my whole life, and then, so I went that way for a career path, went to school for it, went and worked in the oil industry doing data analytics and software development, and kind of, got a lot of industry and business experience that way. People are always like, oh, you worked in the oil industry. That's so, different from what I'm doing now. But in reality, it's not when you kind of figure out how they collide, right? So on the health and wellness and performance side, I was an athlete growing up, always kind of like had to work harder than I thought I needed to get the performance that I needed, and then stalled out at a relatively young age, at least from what I could feel. But it's for where most people stall out, which is like around college age. Mm-hmm. And in any case, started to realize that my family and me too were struggling with things that were related to health that didn't make sense. It was like, these are reasonable people. They make reasonable decisions. Why is health so hard? Why is everything just, hurting more? And trying to just start to unpack that led me down a rabbit hole, which eventually I became a personal trainer, a group fitness instructor, helped open a few gyms and run those in Texas back when I lived there. And so that was like the nights and weekends passion that unfolded while during the day I was working out in the oil field, dealing with sensor data that was monitoring the health and performance of equipment out in the field, and then learning that preventive maintenance and predictive maintenance is way more cheap, or it's way less expensive and way more effective than reactive maintenance where you fix things after they're broke. Right. And so anyways, I started connecting some dots and saying, like, what could I monitor about myself or my clients as a coach that would help us do more preventive maintenance and predictive maintenance and get better results and know that our efforts are actually, leading us in the right direction or not. And fell down the rabbit hole of heart rate variability. That was the first path foray into this space of combining my tech background and this passion for health and performance, and created a company called Elite HRV. And that had no business plan or, anything like that. It was basically just,
those are the best businesses.
Yeah. I wanted this metric, and the research was very compelling that monitoring HRV is a good thing for most people to do. And I couldn't really find any solutions back then that made it do it the way I wanted it to do or the way I thought it should be done. So I was like, like any natural person would, is I'll just build that. Right. And so I have always had an entrepreneurial streak to me. I've always kind of ideated about starting businesses and tried starting businesses even from a young age, and in college and stuff. At one point, I thought I was going to go down and open gyms and go down that path. But then my tech background steered me this way. And so, which ends up being, I think, better for everyone, because it turns out lifelong tech is something that the gym and fitness and wellness industry benefits from, if I can kind of bring that to them and let them be the experts on, what they do, and I can be the expert on what I do. It makes for great collaboration. So
what was it you mentioned that your family, you had some familial struggles with health. And was it just that there wasn't consistency, and you're going, I'm in this personal training boat, so you're aware of it. And you go, well, if they just did these things, it's about being consistent. And so it's more of a psychological thing for them to stay consistent. Or was it simply a matter of, the car breaking down, like the brake pads are gone and things like that. And you're going, well, how do I monitor it now, so I know that I need to take it in before it wears out the rotors? Is that kind of which of those two was it more of?
Both, basically. Again, my family is pretty normal, not like super wealthy or super low income necessarily, just kind of like in the middle somewhere. And they make kind of normal decisions when it comes to health and well-being, and understand that health is important, but don't always necessarily know what to do in different situations. And when we do know what to do, life kind of piles on and gets in the way. Lots of kids and work and all sorts of other stuff, that piles on. So I started experiencing that myself, but I was also just witnessing it all around me. And then with my clients, when I was a coach, I would literally be telling them, like, here's what we can do. And they would look at me in the eyes and say, great, I will do that. And then next time we got together, they didn't do that. And, and when I was young, I was like, what's wrong with these people?
For me, it's always Thanksgiving. Like, I have the family always coming to me for,
oh, right.
What do I need to eat? How do I need to do this? What workout should I get? You give it to them and it never pans out. Like, they just never follow up on it.
Yeah. And then I used to kind of be more judgmental about it. My family helped me be less judgmental, because I always thought very highly of everybody in my family, and I still do. And they kind of helped me realize, like, this is just how life is for a lot of people. It's just hard to juggle all these things, and there's so many priorities and so much noise. And not only noise in the sense of not, going online and finding which workout should I do, and there's like a billion recommendations, but noise from your social life and your community and your obligations for work and kids and all sorts of noise. So was trying to find ways to kind of cut through the noise on all that stuff. And then also the health issues seemed like, as I looked into it, these issues are getting worse for every generation and happening at younger and younger ages. So it was pretty obvious to me early on that it's not just an aging thing. Like, aging is, of course, something everybody goes through. And now I'm in my late 30s and things break a little more easily than they used to. And
doesn't feel the same when you wake up and get out of bed, does it?
Yeah, exactly. So I have tendonitis in my elbow right now for the first time ever in my life. And I'm like, this should just resolve like by tomorrow, right? And nope. And so I walk the walk and live it as well. But in the oil field, kind of tying all this together, you could show people data out in the oil field and be like, your job is to make this company more money while spending less and decreasing the risk for, because in the oil field, if something goes wrong, people can die, right? Mm-hmm. So, and they can be like, that makes sense. And then you can be like, here's the preventive and predictive things that we can do to, get this outcome. And they still resist. And again, it's not, they want to do the right thing, and it's their job, and they're there getting paid for it. And it was really mind boggling sometimes. But then over time, I kind of peeled back the psychology of all of it and realized like change is just hard. It's easier to default back to our habits. Fixing things that are broken is also a little bit more of like a dopamine inducing, like heroic experience.
Yeah, look what I did. It was broken. Now it's working again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's very celebrated. Whereas preventive maintenance is boring. Like it's basically like changing the oil on your car on time. Like no one calls you and gives you a medal for that.
Right.
Right. And so a lot of the health and performance behaviors are kind of boring on paper. When you get into it, they can be really fun. So once you kind of integrate it into your identity and your lifestyle, I learned as well, they can actually be fun. But I've gone way off into the rabbit hole on all this stuff. And we can dig into any of it, but that's kind of pushed me more and more in this direction of like, what tools and systems can we build that cut through the noise, give you feedback, show you if you're making progress or not, and ultimately make decision making easier and more enjoyable.
So you're in this fitness space now, like fully. I mean, you've kind of shifted, used a lot of the talents and skill sets that you've learned over the years, and it's evolved you into this person who's able to look at information and go, okay, this is how this is going to help shape the fitness industry. If we weren't recording, okay, because I think I said this earlier, I think a lot of people just kind of want to be part of the conversation when they're listening to this stuff. And I try to do my best to think what the listeners might be questioning. But if we weren't recording, we're just having this conversation. What would you say was or is the biggest frustration for you about the health and fitness space today? Like, what's the biggest frustrating point about the health and fitness space that you're experiencing today?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it's the same thing that all humans struggle with, which is the difference between short-term planning and long-term planning, or maybe, short-term behavior versus long-term behavior. And so, as an industry, it's not even just a fitness industry problem. It's all businesses as well, because businesses are run by humans still in 2025. And
make that point known. Right.
Right. But in any case, people want to meet their quarterly metrics or show that they got a boost in sales or something like that. And that's all great. Like businesses need to do that. Humans need to do that too, in day-to-day life sometimes. But, there's a balance there. And the fitness and wellness industry has been kind of notoriously slow to adopt new technologies and kind of resistant to change, just like many industries. Again, I dealt with that in the oil industry too when I was there. The company that I worked for was 120 years old. And a lot of stuff was still written down on paper. And I was like, just mind blown because
where's the file for that?
Yeah. Right. And so, in any case, that's just a natural part of evolution, and the health and fitness industry is a pretty mature industry. But AI has started to kind of disrupt the consumer end of it, and has kind of forced an accelerated adoption of technology in the past 2 years that I don't think this industry has ever seen before. So it's kind of an exciting time for me, kind of being more of like a tech native and then getting more into health and fitness over the past decade. But that's a frustration that kind of trickles out in many ways. Like a specific example being, when it comes to allocating a budget in a gym, do you spend it on the things that you've been spending it on, or what's the budget for investing in kind of improving or innovating or adopting things? And the good news is like I said, there are a lot of innovators and people making big swing decisions right now. And so we're kind of capitalizing and being a part of that and being a partner to those organizations. But what gets us, what got us here is not going to be the same thing that gets us there, so to speak. And by and large, as an industry, we have altogether not helped a lot of people, by doing the same things over and over again. Exercise is essential. It's so critical for health and well-being and performance. But a lot of people go to the gym thinking they're going to lose weight by exercising. And in reality, you really just can't effectively, sustainably lose weight through exercise alone. It needs to be nutrition and recovery and sleep, and these other things are possibly even more important for a weight loss goal than exercise. But there's not really a business model historically that has worked to serve those needs, right? So go into the gym, say, I want to lose some fat. They're like, great, here's our exercise equipment, or, here's our group classes, or et cetera. And you may you definitely get tons of, again, benefits from participating in that. But then you might be like, maybe I lost a few pounds because I'm being more health conscious and have better metabolism or more lean mass or something. But I'm not really getting the results I'm looking for, and maybe I'm going to quit. And, but if there was nutritional support and maybe some education around sleep and recovery and some support for those things, that could really create the outcome everyone wants, including the gym owner or the fitness organization. But historically, there just hasn't been a business model that has worked to serve those needs, because nutrition happens outside the gym most of the time, and sleep happens, at home and at night. And it's just when they're not with you from a member perspective. So
yeah, I think the interesting thing for me is the fact that a lot of consumers, just humans in general, right? Just all of us, we have this tendency of kind of taking the easier path. It's seen in the way that you work throughout your day. It's seen in the way that you get up and wake up in the morning. Like, it's always said, like, do the hardest thing first to get that out of the way. But the reality is most of us don't do that. And we don't do that because it is the hard thing. And that hard thing, you kind of plan it to go to a later stage, so that way you can get the other stuff done and get that dopamine response of going, hurrah, I did this, I got these things, I checked them off my list. So I look at this, and, back in 2000, we had about 12% of the US population they had a membership to a gym. Mm-hmm. Not that they used it, but they had a card, and they could say that they had a card to use a gym. Today, we're at about 25%. And to your point, I think the adoption of like using technology to help support the reason why people are actually not coming to the gym. What is the reason that the other 75% today don't have a gym membership? Right. So I think that the question has to start there first, and identify, why is it that they wouldn't do it? What is the biggest fear? And you being in personal training, you probably understand this and have seen it yourself. It's that idea that when somebody walks in the door, that the light is shined on them, right? Someone is there going, hey, look at this person. Everybody look over here. This person just walked in the door. Let's make a point to look at them. And they are not necessarily wearing the Lululemon tight-fitting clothes and shaping their body the way that they want those clothes to shape them. So in their mind, they usually get to this point where they go, let me lose a little bit of weight first before I come in, or let me exercise a little bit and just kind of get acclimated before I join the gym. Those are the reasons that I hear. And because I've heard those reasons, I have a feeling that those same reasons are the same resonating reasons that other people just don't even walk in the door. Is that fear of being the spotlight for everyone else in the gym. And I think if we can control that and we can give gym owners, I guess, the solution to solve that problem, then you'd see more people joining. And to your point, you're right. I think gym owners in general, they don't adopt these new technologies, but they also don't necessarily know how it's going to grow their business. They're just relying on the fact that more people are more aware of fitness. And so naturally, the curve continues to go up because more people are getting involved. And that has nothing to do with them existing as a gym. That has everything to do with the population and society saying you need to exercise and you need to work out and be healthy. So to your point, if there was a solution, and I think Spren helps guide that dialogue for gym owners, then clients can feel more comfortable as to the reason why they're showing up. So, I want to flip over to, the reason or maybe the biggest problems that I see. I look at gyms and the biggest problem and you can attest to this, is that when someone signs up, they drop out, right? January rush, New Year's rush. They come in and then 2 weeks later, what do you notice? The gym's a lot less full, right? After all those people sign up. And then after a few months, there's the likelihood of them leaving. And I think the stat is like, I think it's 10 or 15 workouts in a month. If they're not doing that, they're at risk for leaving. So what is it that Spren does to help offset that?
Yeah, it's a great question. And you hit on so many great points and everything you just said there about, the fear and the anxiety and other things associated with gym life and joining a gym. And usually the big, strong guys who are grunting in a gym also they may look kind of intimidating, but they're often the nicest people in the whole world. If you just go talk to them, they're happy to show you how to do things. And it's like a reward for all the work that they've put in, getting recognized, as sort of an authority figure maybe in your local community. So that's a quick sidebar shout out, just trying to always spread the word of people to be less intimidated by those environments. In any case, Spren is, basically it's a self-awareness tool. That's one thing that we do is we take these high quality measurements that you would normally have to book an appointment for, either go into a lab or go and book an appointment with a gym staff or something to do, for example, a body composition assessment. So we aren't obsessed with making you obsess over your body fat percentage or anything like that. But building a little bit of awareness around what your body's doing and what works for your body starts with taking a few measurements. And one of the challenges of kind of the old way of doing it, which is to go in and use hardware and book an appointment and all that, is partially related to what you just said, which is that it's embarrassing a little bit for a lot of people what their starting point is. Our message is that your starting point should never be embarrassing, because everyone's got to start somewhere. And by law of mathematics, most people are somewhere near the average, right? And so your starting point is pretty normal for most people. And there's nothing to be ashamed of there. And so this allows you to do it from your phone in private at home, meaning that there's just really low barrier. It's totally private to you. Nobody else in the world sees it. You can even just delete it right away if you want. But you can get that starting point of measuring your body accurately, as accurate or more accurate than the hardware that's at the gym, and start building out that baseline for your journey that then you can track progress against. And so, some of the top reasons why people stop going to the gym, one of them is that kind of cultural anxiety that you described, which maybe my labeling is oversimplifying, but I think in spirit. And then another is not knowing what to do there, right? And so if it's a gym that has, equipment that you would work out on your own without like an instructor or something like that, it can be very intimidating. And it's like, what do I do? Is this even the right exercise? How many reps? What does a rep even mean? Do I touch the bar to my chest, or why would I not do that? All these questions. And then another reason is, let's say that you do go in and you start doing stuff. You may or may not think it's the right stuff, but then you're also not sure if it's actually working because it takes time to see the progress, right? And
just sore the next day.
Yeah. You might be sore.
Yeah.
That's right. Actually, so people end up as a proxy for progress. That's such a great point. I'm going to steal that now and say it all over the place. But because people don't really historically have good tools to show progress in the short term, they go off of, was I sore? Did I sweat a lot? Did it suck? Was it hard, basically? And hard work, I would say, of those three is probably the most important. The amount that you sweat is somewhat irrelevant. The muscle soreness is somewhat irrelevant. It is a little bit of a proxy measure of hard work. And hard work is good for the most part. But in lieu of that, it takes a long time to kind of see progress for most people. And part of that is you may not be selecting the best exercises, or you may not be doing, the right rep ranges or movement patterns that work for your body. Once you establish a baseline of measurement, like, for example, using our app, then you can actually track that progress more granularly. And we do what we call our weekly check-in. So people will measure their body composition usually once a week, again, from their phone at home. And then they can see, am I starting to make progress? Because we can give really granular feedback. Before you can see it with your eyes, our analysis can see it in the data. And so you can start to be like, okay, yeah, if I'm putting in 3 hours a week, it's leading somewhere, and that's very motivating for people to stick with it. And they can even forecast in our app where that will eventually take them. Cause you'll hear people say like, oh, it's about 1% improvement every day. And that makes a lot of sense to type A people who are already going to do 1% every day. Right. And intellectually, it probably makes sense to a lot of people. But when it comes to actual implementation, it's like, if you don't have a feedback loop that's reinforcing the continuous get up and go and put in that 1% worth of effort, it's really difficult. It's really difficult to keep doing that. So, this is just, so that was just one example, I guess, of starting to bridge a self-awareness of the individual with the activities that they're trying to do, and whether or not that's providing a feedback loop for them that's positively reinforcing. And then the other thing it does is it actually engages people as well, because there's a habit component to all of this. No matter how good your intentions are or how educated you are, you could know everything there is to know about health and fitness and have the best intentions of the world, but then building and breaking habits is just really difficult. And there's books like I have back here, Atomic Habits, and
it's a good one.
Yeah, it's such a great book. I would recommend it to everyone. And there's methodologies that can help you do that. And there's also tools that can help you do that. And that's kind of where we also see our role being, is it's really hard for any business that has a physical, presence, whether that's people or buildings and equipment. They can't follow you around all day and help you with all those little situations that you run into when you're building or trying to break habits or replace or displace. There's lots of cool words that habit coaches use. In any case, when you got this data and you have these feedback loops kind of built in, that is kind of reinforcement of some of that habit formation. But we also now have some AI systems and things that sit on top of that data and can more proactively help you build those habits. One of which is just going into the gym consistently, right? And so coming all the way back to the beginning of your question, there is like, it's January, you get excited, you just ate food consistently for the last 2 months, you were just pounding it over the holidays, and you're like, okay, it's 2025 or 2026 coming up, I'm going to do this. That's awesome. What's even more important, I think, than deciding is deciding how you're going to be successful at that, and realizing that life is going to try to fight back, and what systems and tools are you going to put in place to deal with that. And so that this is, a system that, consumers can get, but also gyms and fitness facilities and things like that are starting to implement more proactively as well.
So 2 questions for you, listening to what you're saying. Number one is, Spren gives you your body composition, right? So just so everyone knows what it's doing. But you have hydrostatic weighing, you have DEXA scans, you have the bod pod, you have the InBody now, you have, there's so many tools out there. When I was in school and we would do hydrostatic weighing and skin fold calipers, and we do all these things, hydrostatic weighing was like the gold standard. I think DEXA is probably now the gold standard, but we started with hydrostatic weighing based on Archimedes' principle and how he was measuring gold and identifying whether it was gold or silver. And now we look at it and we go, okay, so those formulas were the set point, right? That was the default. That's how you identified whether somebody was more dense or less dense. And if less dense, the fat would float to the top of these pools, right? So I'm just like thinking, are we still using the same formulas? That's question number one, related to all of the other tech components that are out there. And 2, how does this compare to all of those other tools? Because you can have validity, as you mentioned, right? The check-ins, and you're seeing this progress, and it's valid because it's the consistent measurement of the same tool in the same person, and maybe even the same time of day. But it may not be accurate. And I find that with bioelectrical impedance analyzers from Omron. I find that with the bod pod. I find that with even the InBody. I think Tanita made it. I can't remember who made the InBody. But I see the same problems across the board. They might have some validity to it, but the accuracy may not be there. So if you throw somebody in a DEXA scan, somebody might come out on an InBody scan and show that they're 12% body fat, but then you go do a DEXA scan and they might be 9%, or they might actually be 18%. So how does this match up to that? That's question number one. And then question number 2 that I asked prior to that was, does the formula need to change, right? Because all we have is Archimedes' formula, which was used for hydrostatic weighing, which was then input into DEXA scan, which was then used for BIAs and all these other tools. So talk to me about that. If you've made it this far into the episode, thank you. I don't take your time or your attention lightly. So if anything that I've shared today has sparked an idea, challenged you in any way, maybe challenged your perspective on things, or just helps you see your business a little differently, I'd love for you to do 2 quick things. First, head over to YouTube, search Sweat Success Podcast, and hit that subscribe button. Next, please go to bizops.com. I've put together a handful of free resources there that you can download to help you grow your business, improve your systems, and create real freedom. They're all available right now. There's no strings attached. I just appreciate you being here. Let's get back to the show.
Yeah, it's a great question. Because you're wanting to unpack, let's say the nerdy version, we'll go deep on it. I often will say you'll hear me saying things like DEXA is the gold standard that consumers have access to, which is true. And I stand by that. But in reality, MRI and autopsy are the gold standard. Yeah. And so obviously autopsy is a one-way street. You don't want to go down that route for body composition analysis. And MRI is becoming more accessible. I'm excited about, innovation in the MRI space, but it's still, not that accessible to most people. So DEXA DEXA also isn't, to be honest. It's kind of expensive. In most cities, it's like $150 to do one DEXA scan, and you have to pay out of pocket. Sometimes like HSA, FSA may cover it, or if your doctor prescribed it for like osteoporosis examination, then, it might be covered by insurance or something like that. But
it's a hassle. You got to schedule. You got to get a referral from a physician. Then you got to go in, and you're trying to get this information today.
Exactly. And then from progress tracking perspective, even the gold standard of DEXA, which gets into the heart of a little bit of your other question, is it can be thrown off a little bit by like how well you're hydrated or what you've eaten recently, or kind of just the, more acute changes in your body composition that if you're only measuring once per year, you would have no idea, where you're at on that spectrum. And so there's a lot of, confounding factors that come from that. So with that being said, DEXA, for most people, if they go get a DEXA scan and it's the first time they've ever done it, most people are unhappy with the result because it usually tells them that they have more body fat than they expected. That's totally normal. And again, this kind of bridges a little bit of the psychology into your question about accuracy and reliability. If you're tracking progress over time, that reliability and that validity over time is the most important thing, that you are actually, decreasing body fat if that's what your goal is, or increasing muscle if that's what your goal is. And that, that's guiding that journey. But having an accurate starting point is also important as well, because again, we want to calibrate where our own expectations for our body, and that feeds back into the psychology of sticking with it and behavior change and all of that stuff. If you walk around thinking that you're 10% body fat, but you're actually 20% body fat, which that happens to a lot of people actually. Depending on your shape and where you hold fat and things like that, it can be not intuitive.
Psychologically, it's devastating for someone who's like 10% body fat, and then they recognize that they're 20 or 25% body fat. It's like, wait, hold on. I thought I was good.
Yeah. Well, but and then in reality, from a health perspective, for a man, 10 and 20 can both be totally healthy. Mm-hmm. 20 is maybe a little on the high end if you want to be like, an optimizer, but for most people, it's totally healthy. What really matters is if you're carrying adipose tissue around your viscera, your organs in your midsection, that's more important than body fat percentage from a health perspective. But a lot of us too are also looking, again, this comes back all the way to like my family story at the beginning, is like noticing that as the years go by, people are getting larger, and not because they're getting taller. And, we often, whether we say we care about aesthetics and looks, we look at ourselves in the mirror and we either like what we see or don't like what we see. And we see that it's going in the right direction, the wrong direction, right?
Yeah, it's the shower test.
Yeah.
You look in the mirror before you get in the shower or after you get in the shower to see what you look like.
Right. And if you are at 20% body fat and you convince others that you look like you're at 10%, then great. You just gifted genetically, you're carrying that stuff.
It's hidden.
Yeah. So it's not so much, again, about, unless you're trying to train for a sport or a bodybuilding competition or something like that, getting down to an exact number on body fat percentage is more just an arbitrary goal that you may pick. What really matters for most people, and this is something like Dr. Gabrielle Lyon says, is that we don't necessarily have an over fat problem. We have like an under muscle problem. Like we most of us need to focus more on lean mass, building and preserving lean mass. And we need to kind of get away from this weight loss narrative, because you can start working out and build lean mass and see the scale weight either change or go up even, but then look way better, to yourself included, not just to me on this podcast, but to yourself, to your peers. Your clothes can fit better. And not only that, but muscle gives you a lot of energy. It really helps with metabolism. It helps with hormone balance. And it has so many cascading effects that can lead to better health, better energy, better confidence, better capabilities, less injuries, lower mortality rate, all of these things. And it also coincidentally helps with reduction of visceral adipose tissue, which is that organ fat that is more dangerous from a health perspective. Now, there's kind of some direct, but mostly indirect mechanisms there. But you can tell I can go way down the rabbit hole on these subjects. The important thing, though, is that you can really depend upon the tool that you're using for both accuracy and reliability over time. And most consumers are not going and reading peer-reviewed research and kind of comparing, the margins of errors of different tools and things like that. There's sort of like a believability experientially, when you use something. And I will say that there is some psychology, consumer psychology. We see this in calorie tracking, right? So if you have a wearable and you use an exercise bike, they're going to give you 2 different calorie burns after you do a bike session, right? Mm-hmm. Most of the time, consumers like the one that told them they burned more calories.
Yeah.
And since calorie burn is not really like a, regulated measurement or anything like that, and there's not really any clear gold standards either for it, there's a lot of pressure for companies to just over-report the number of calories so that consumers will like their product. Now, that same thing translates a little bit into body composition measurements. And I will say it's much better than calorie burn tracking. So not poo-pooing on all the tools out there or anything. But there is a gold standard for accuracy, and that is DEXA, because it's a full body X-ray. And again, has its own confounding factors, but is a very accurate starting point. And that's what we benchmark off of. So typically what you'll see, there's studies too that, and I can share them with you as well, but that will measure these tools side by side. And usually there's kind of a spectrum of like DEXA kind of reporting the highest body fat percentage, for example, and then other tools kind of reporting slightly lower than DEXA progressively for different tools. And usually Spren's right up there, right underneath DEXA, within a percent of the result. Yeah.
So how does this, number one, how does it work? And what impact does the phone that someone's using have on the quality of the output?
Yep.
Right. So if I'm using like an older phone version, maybe I don't have the high resolution cameras, or, so those are 2, I think, really important factors for people listening.
Yeah. And to kind of illustrate why that question is important is that we just use the camera of the phone and nothing else. So for anyone who's kind of trying to imagine what this would look like, it's you open our app, you put it on the floor, you have it opens the camera, but it gives you this special little overlay that shows you how to stand so that your body can be scanned accurately. And then it automatically snaps a picture when you're standing in the right position. It processes that and then deletes it. We're not saving images of people or anything like that unless they specifically opt in for research or something. And people can save it to their own phone if they want. But in any case, so it's important, right, that you have the right setup to get this accurate measurement. The good news is that cameras are like one of the most used functions of phones. And so we get to ride the wave of Instagram and Snapchat and all the reasons why our phones have such powerful cameras in them. So you would have to have a really old phone to not work with Spren, because our technology works pretty much with all the modern phones. And the camera is not the limiting factor. Really, what's the limiting factor is One is clothing. So we are not an X-ray, so we can't see through clothing. And so usually people will get into their underwear for the scan. But sometimes if you're wearing like some skin tight fitness clothing or something like that, that can work too. Not loose clothing though, because again, we can't really guess what's under there if it's loose, right? And DEXA is an X-ray, so it can actually see through that stuff. But in any case, so that's one thing. Lighting is another. You can't do this in the dark. You got to turn the light on. It has some adequate lighting shining on you, not behind you. And then the third thing is just having too many things in the background. So the good news is the app kind of walks you through all this stuff. And I think we're on track to have 100,000 people do scans this year. So
that's great.
Basically, lots of people are figuring it out just fine. And it's really not that hard. Once you do it once, then you kind of get the routine, and then it takes you like maybe 2 minutes to do it end to end. Maybe like 1 minute for a lot of people. And you can just do it on your phone anytime, as many times as you want. Some people take that a little too far and do like multiple scans a day. And it's like, well, your body composition is not changing that rapidly. We recommend weekly is a good cadence, because that's enough time passing where you can kind of see change, but it's also frequent enough to build a habit, right? Again, coming back to these machines where you have to book appointments, you may do those once a year, maybe once a quarter. If you're really into it, you might do it once a month. And the less frequently that you do it, the longer it goes before you know if what you're doing is actually working or not. And it's harder to course correct over those long sweeps of time, and then also stay motivated and accountable.
So how would you recommend gym owners using this, right? Because for gym owners, they're in a position where they go, all right, well, I want the technology. How do I do this? For clients, right? If they are going to the gym and the gym is saying, the personal trainer is saying, hey, Joan, I want you to go home, download this app, pay for it, and then, do the scan and then let me know what the results are. That creates, not necessarily a friction point, but a little bit of a hurdle for them if they're trying to work with them or sell them personal training or get them involved in a program. So walk me through that process, because I think that's what everyone needs to hear. Like, how does this whole thing work if I'm a personal trainer, if I'm a gym owner, if I have a studio, if I'm a client listening to this? What are the different variations?
Yep. Yeah. So first I'll answer just specifically the body scan, and then I'll share a little bit about the platform that we've built for gym owners and studio owners and health club operators. Okay. So for the body scan specifically, a lot of times either they will have people do one as like a demo, either in the locker room or in the bathroom or behind a curtain or something like that. And the person, like the staff, doesn't need to go in with them or anything. Like, people can just do it on their own. But a lot of times, this comes back to a data accuracy and quality question. In the gym is actually not the best time to measure body composition. And that's another problem with the hardware that's in the gym, is that it's pretty inconsistent of the time of day that you might be measuring it or what you just did. If you just worked out, you could be very hydrated or you could be very dehydrated, after a workout. And all these factors, influence the results. And so what we find is that people who are coming into the gym are already juggling a lot of things, and introducing a lot more things right in that moment is not necessarily the recipe for success. Mm-hmm. What trainers and staff often will end up doing is say, hey, as a member of our, facility, you can get access to these tools that you can use at home, and they're really easy. They may show you how to download the app, and then you're off to the races, basically. And so you can then go home. We have this whole reminder system built out where it's like doing it in the morning is the most consistent. So you can set a reminder to do it tomorrow morning or Sunday morning or whatever's better for you. Get that reminder, wake up, takes 2 minutes. Most people are super curious. And when they can do it privately, they're less embarrassed. So they actually love doing it. Our percentage of people who sign up and then actually do a body scan is like 80% or higher. It's just really high. And that's compliance of going home and doing it and like things like that you would think people would forget about, but they're actually really excited to do it. And then from there, that kind of bridges into a lot of the other platform pieces that we built. So what we found working with, clubs and studios and things is that body composition and tracking around that is a big pain point. Members want it, operators want it. Solutions that were available had a lot of costs and friction. So solving a good problem there. Nutrition is another problem. It's one of the biggest influencers of changes in your body composition, but there aren't really good models, again, for operators to help people with nutrition. And so we built out an entire nutrition component of the platform where your body scan flows automatically into a personalized nutrition plan that is mapped to your physiology and your goals. And you can forecast changes and get personalized macros and targets and things like that. And then not only that, because we kind of get a little carried away sometimes with our tech development, we built out an entire food logging system built in that replaces the need to have any other external food logging system. And it's AI native, so you can take pictures and use your voice to log food and things like that. People are just saying it's so much easier than the alternatives. That data feeds right back in to your body changes in your body composition so that your nutrition plan and your progress tracking automatically updates as you go. And then on top of that, we've layered on this AI coach that I don't usually lead with talking about AI because it's such a buzzy word. It's such a buzzy thing.
Everybody has AI now today.
AI. And so, I don't know, I was going to think of some joke about like AI dentures or something like that. Right. But, in any case, we've been an AI and machine learning company since before ChatGPT was a thing. So we're very deep in the machine learning and deep learning, computer vision and AI space. And so our AI coach does use language models to make this whole experience a little bit more conversational. So when someone does a body composition analysis, this is another challenge that you run into if you go to get a DEXA or you go to a gym or something and do one of these things. You get this report, which I have, DEXA reports, like I use all the tools to make sure that I'm up to date. You get this like 10-page report with all these numbers on it. And if you're lucky, a staff member will explain it all to you.
If you're lucky that the staff member knows how to explain it all to you.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And what ends up happening a lot of times is you'll have, let's say, a middle-aged woman getting explained by a 19-year-old boy, this report, and she, just being cheeky
here. This is bad here.
Yeah. And she's like he's like their kid's age or something like that. And they're like, sorry, ma'am, you're fat. And, this is just not a good experience for anyone. And so the app will explain it. You can go into all the details and get all the reference ranges and all the scientific numbers that you want in the report. But the AI coach also, as soon as you do a scan, will just text you real quick and just say, hey, saw your scan. Here's what here, you should just ignore 80% of these numbers. And here's the one that you might want to pay attention to. And here's how you can translate that into a plan.
That's great.
Right. And so, this does a lot for simplifying the experience in an automated way. But that AI coach, goes one step further. So when we partner with these, organizations, we actually train the AI to represent their brand and their mission with their knowledge and information baked into it. And this goes for coaches too, because we're very passionate. I was a coach. We're passionate about working with and serving coaches. So the point of the AI coach is definitely not to replace human coaches. It's to augment them and help them be able to serve their clients 24/7, essentially, because that's just impossible for a human coach to do. And in any case, when you're a member using this thing and you're like, okay, I tracked my body scan, I got my nutrition, it's helping remind me proactively to get into the gym or to show up for class. And if I don't, it can have a conversation about, what challenges did we run into there? Do we need to coordinate with our spouse on childcare, so that we can take turns going into the gym or something like that, right? And you can have that conversation with the AI, and it not only knows your goals and your data and your body, but it also knows what services are available at your gym. So if you're like, yeah, I'm really trying to work on my back pain, and they might be like, oh, well, there's like a mobility friendly group class that on Tuesdays that you might be interested in, that based on our conversation fits your schedule. And so this ends up cascading into not only engaging the members more and keeping them engaged and building those habits and getting them towards the results they're looking for, but also then impacting member engagement, retention, upsells, these business metrics that especially studios, when they get into it, if there's a coach that's really passionate and they end up forming a gym or a business, and then they're like, oh crap, now I have to learn about retention and engagement and all these metrics that are really a pain in the ass and boring, but they impact the whole industry and they're critical to success. This creates a bridge for the brand to be able to do that in a more automated way, while serving the needs of the member versus just kind of spamming them.
I really like what you've built. I mean, you already have a successful business previously with the app that you rolled out for heart rate. And now you've gone into this arena. And I think it only makes sense because you may have been thinking of them both at the same time. I don't know how they both evolved, but your experience, your exposure to different industries and how you've kind of built this, it makes a lot of sense, the path that you took and why you did it. But I think, again, people want to get involved in this. How do they do that? How can they reach out to you? How can they get involved? Do they just go download the app? Like what are the steps? If I'm a gym, how can I partner? If I am a coach or a client, how do I get the information?
Yeah, well, thanks. I appreciate those kind words as well. So if you're a consumer or a member or something like that, you can go to spren.com, spren.com, or just search for Spren in the App Store, and we're there. You can get access to a lot of our technology that way, but not all of it. So I don't mean that in a, that it's still really exciting.
You can't get it all.
You can't get it all. It's hidden. No, but the point of saying that way, which maybe was a little awkward, but the point of saying it that way is that if you want like an AI system that's integrated in with your gym, obviously that's only available through the gyms that we're partnered with. But you can access the other tools. And so, I mean, if you want the AI system at your gym, please tell them for us and we're happy to talk to them. But, if you're interested in partnering with us more on the business side, and this isn't just for gyms, by the way, but gyms happen to be kind of a major, player with this, is check out our website, spren.com. We've got a little partnerships button at the top there. You can also ping me on like LinkedIn if that's a preference for you. And our partnership, our head of partnerships as well, but I can get you connected. And then, or I guess email partnerships@spren.com. That's another aspect to it. And we're actually interested in partnering with many types of organizations. So even if you're not a gym, if you're a service provider of another type or something like that, reach out to us, because I think there's a lot of opportunity here. When we think about our position in the universe, data is this thing that, everybody talks about all the time. Data is the new oil. It's the gold. It's, data is the thing. And it's true in this like AI revolution that's happening. Data is sort of the fuel underneath all of that, but it only is useful if it translates into action and into outcomes that people are looking for. And so when I look at the pie, I just see us as like this tiny little slice, a very important slice. Like I kind of make the joke, I'm devoting my life to it. So it's a very important little slice of pie. But it's kind of like bookends for a really big journey. And so you build a baseline, you figure out where you're at, you get these personalized plans, but you need a lot of guidance. You need access to great, facilities or the ability to exercise or to find good food or to find community. All of these things are incredibly important, and our partners are the ones that bring all of those important pieces. So, we're just excited to partner with everybody. And, at the end of the day, you didn't ask for this, but as a technologist, one of my personal missions is to realize the vision that technology can serve us when it comes to health and fitness. And so much of it that I see makes our health and fitness worse. And there's just billions or trillions of dollars being put into technology that makes us less healthy. And I don't think it has to be that way. I think we can have our cake and eat it too, while being entertained and having high convenience and all this stuff, and being healthy and well and feeling confident and energetic. But it will take work, and we're happy to put in that work. So
yeah, I appreciate you being on. Jason, this has been phenomenal. I learned a lot from you as we're talking. And for anyone who's listening, if you didn't catch some of those points there, we'll have a lot of those things in the show notes. So you can just go to spren.com. You can fill out the information you need so that way you can level up your business. And I haven't had a chance to download the app yet. It was on my list of things to do before actually working with Jason today. But everything that I've researched so far and everything that I've looked at, and you guys can hear the conversation here, it is a game changer. And if it's matching or even just close to the way DEXA is scanning that information, coupled with all of the other features that are within the application, and this happens to technologists, they want to continue to build, you guys are going to be in a really great position. So, Jason, thank you so much for being on the show today, man. I mean, this has been awesome, and I really feel that a lot of people have gotten a lot of value out of this.
Thank you, Michael. Yeah, no, I appreciate you saying that. And we're always learning, though. So I think to your point, we're obsessive builders. Can't stop, won't stop. We're always building and improving. But to go in the right direction, we also have to learn from the community. And we can't just put ourselves in a closet and blindly build, the best things. Which I've done and I've tried, and those things were really cool, but nobody bought them. And so we love feedback, and we love hearing from the community. And we think that's basically one of our superpowers is listening. And so, if you hear this and you're like, oh, what if it could do this? Or you try it and you're like, wow, that was cool, but I wish it could also do this. Let us know. We love hearing that stuff, and things change really quickly. So I just appreciate you bringing me here and letting us spread the word, but also appreciate your community for listening, and would love to learn from them too.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. And everyone else, hope you guys enjoyed the show, and we'll see you guys on the flip side.